Hello mathematicians! Today we're going to be learning about decimals, more specifically what they are and some examples of decimals. To get us started, let's first talk about the definition. So a decimal is a fraction written in a special form. So a decimal is a number that has a decimal point that separates our whole numbers from our fraction of a whole number. And an example would be $4.13. The 4 here represents 4 whole dollars, and the 13 represents how many cents we have, and it takes 100 cents to complete a dollar, so we have 13 cents, and in order to have one whole, we would need 100, okay? So this is 13 cents out of a dollar. And so the way we write it out is 4.13 to separate our whole number and our part of our whole number, okay? So here we're going to go over some examples and non-examples. Our first example is 0.3, which is read as 3/10. Our second example is 1.84, which is read out as 1 84/100. Then we have negative 7.242, which is read out as negative 7 242,000ths. And then we have negative 0.456 repeating. Now here the line on top tells us that this decimal goes on and on forever, okay? And then we have 9.38 repeating, which means that the 3 and the 8 keep repeating over and over again. It just continues on forever. So here are some examples of a decimal. We have terminating decimals, the ones that stop, and we have repeating decimals, the ones that keep going on forever, and we could recognize those because they have a line on top. Now let's go over some non-examples. So here we have 1. 1 is a non-example because we don't have a decimal place. 1 is a whole by itself. We can write it as a decimal by writing it as 1.0 or 1.00. However, this is one whole, so we don't have to write it out as a decimal unless we're talking about money. And then here we have a half, and this is written in fraction form. We can write this as a decimal. It would be 0.5 or 5/10. However, here it's in fraction form. Again, 4 is a whole number. Same logic applies to our 1. And then we have negative 5. Same logic applies. We can write this as negative 5.0 or negative 5.00, but it's a whole number, so we could just leave it as a whole number. And then another example would be 4.5. We can certainly write this as a decimal. However, here it's written in fraction form, so it's not written in decimal form. All right? And some real-world examples of decimals include money. And then, we could write this out as 9.25, so $9.25, or there are an infinite number of examples that we could do using money. All right, weight is another example. For example, someone could weigh 131 pounds and 3/10 of a pound. And then another example would be length. We could have 1.5 feet, which is 1.5 feet. All right. So these are some examples of where we could see decimals, and there are a lot more. I'm sure you could think of some, all right? So that's it for decimals, and we've gone over the definition and some examples, non-examples, and real-world examples.